Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 14 of the Big Bros podcast. I'm joined today again by my lovely co-host, Ilan. Ilan, how are you, mate?
I'm fantastic. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. And we have a lovely, lovely guest here. Not just a lovely one, a lovely, lovely one. Our very good mate and close friend, Jordan Glick. Jordan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well, lads. Very well. Thank you for having me on.
How does it feel making, your debut guest appearance on the Big Bros podcast?
Absolute honor. I'm an avid listener, so it's great to be on.
I'm sure you've been, rating us 5 stars like a good
100%.
listener, yeah?
Yeah,
good
on
stuff,
every single
good stuff.
forum, make sure you keep doing it.
Number one fan here then.
Number one fan.
Good friends. Well, today, as you guys can see from the title, we're talking to Jordan about his weight loss journey. Quite a remarkable weight loss journey, and one that's instilled a lot of confidence in him. So expect to hear and learn about all things relating to body image, weight loss, self-love, confidence, how to cultivate that confidence and self-love, and all the different insights and observations that Jordan experienced along the journey. So let's get involved. Ilan, anything to add?
So before we even get into it, Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Jordan Glick. I am 22 years old. Graduated from Liebler College in 2018 with my great friend to the right here, Jeremy. I'm currently studying a double degree of property and real estate and commerce at Deakin University. I'm also one of the co-founders of Malvern's newest health food bar, Blitz Bar, with my 2 great mates, Sam, who was actually on the podcast a few months ago, and Brandon. So shout out to them too.
Shout out Blitz Bar.
All-time greats. Outside of work and uni, really enjoy spending quality time with family and friends, going to the gym, bit of a diehard footy fan. Fortunately, a long-suffering bagger, but try not to let it affect me too much. Kind of numb to the fact that we're bad, but is what it is.
That's all
So,
right. We're used to it.
Jordan,
Yeah.
you told us you wanted to come on to our podcast because you told us there was a very beautiful and valuable message that you thought you could spread, and that was about your weight loss journey.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into that. I want to tell us about your story. What was your defining moment a few years ago that kind of clicked that switch in you?
Yeah, for sure. So probably ever since I was about 8, 9 years old, probably till I was 19, so that's 11 years, like half my life, I was pretty overweight and obese. And I guess I was kind of aware that I was always overweight, but I guess throughout school I didn't really make it a priority of mine to want to change it. There was a little bit of bullying that I unfortunately copped, especially throughout my probably throughout primary school particularly. And I guess, it was just something that was never really a priority of mine. I guess I kind of prioritized more especially throughout year 12 where I feel like I put on most of my weight. I didn't really I preferred to prioritize, year 12 and all of that. And I guess it was also kind of denial. I was always pretty sporty individual. I was very did a lot of extracurricular activities, played footy, tennis, cricket, basketball. And I think kind of in my head, I was like, because I'm doing all these extracurricular activities, it doesn't really matter what I eat. Eventually, the weight will kind of fall off sort of thing. But, I later learned that it's 98% your diet. You can't, they say you can't out-train a bad diet, which I've learned in particular. I think, throughout year 12 was probably where I put on majority of my weight. That was where, I prioritized my studying rather than, doing those extracurricular activities like playing footy and cricket, and, didn't really prioritize having necessarily the cleanest of diets, a bit of stress eating, with year 12 and all the struggle of that. And in my head, I was always like, all right, after year 12 is when I'll, opt to prioritize my weight loss and want to, commence my weight loss journey. And then 2019 kind of came around. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. There were, a few options I could have, I ended up traveling traveling second half of the year and working first half of the year, but, you know, could have had the year to myself to prioritize my weight loss journey, or could have, you know, gone on a gap year program, could have just commenced uni. And then in my head in 2019, I kind of came up with another excuse. It was like, you know, if I'm traveling, I don't want to, you know, focus on eating clearly. I want to be able to, you know, go to Italy, have your pizza, pasta and gelato,
Exactly,
go to
mate.
Greece.
Oh, exactly. You shouldn't
Go to
limit your
Greece and,
diet when you're away.
Exactly.
Nah.
Got to get the full experience. And I guess my sort of defining moments, I actually remember the exact date. It was the 15th of January 2020. I was actually away in Bali, and that was probably like my all-time low. At that stage, I was like the heaviest I'd ever been. Later found out I was actually like 121 kilos.
Jeez,
So very,
yeah.
very, very large.
Yeah.
And at that time, I'd just come back from gap year and kind of like struggled with like my life direction. The only thing I kind of knew I had was university. Didn't even have a job at that time because like I just traveled, so I didn't have a job. Was like basically had no money either. Spent it all in Europe. And I guess at that time, I just didn't really have direction in my life. The only thing I kind of knew was that I was going to uni. And even for me, because I was kind of low on confidence because of my weight, it was like a bit of a fear, like, you know, I have to make new friends. So I was like, you know, in a really, really kind of bad mindset, bad headspace at that time. And my mum could kind of see that, like, you know, wasn't doing too well. So we went on a bit of a walk and I expressed that to her that, you know, I was, you know, in a bit of a rut, so to speak, and, you know, low on confidence, not feeling good about myself, you know, lacking direction in my life. And my mum kind of said, like, it seems like a lot of those issues are coming because of your, you know, body image and how you perceive yourself. And she basically just said, like, the only way to go about it is kind of prioritizing yourself, being a bit selfish, putting yourself first and prioritizing your weight and going on a weight loss journey. And I kind of agreed. So from there, the first thing I did was actually reached out to one of my good mates, Covey Zan. Shout out to Covey, great man. He went on kind of not to the same extent, but throughout school, he went on a bit of a weight loss journey as well. And I reached out to him and kind of, because I was like naive as to how to lose weight, didn't really understand the whole process. It was just something I never really wanted to face. Like, it's one thing I feel like to realize sort of, not necessarily a bad habit, but, you know, that something's like wrong, and then to actually like take that step to actually want to make change was a big thing for me. Like, even like throughout school, like never weighed myself, was just something that I never really wanted to do. It was like, just because I didn't want to kind of quantify it. Like, I knew I was large, but I didn't know to the exact extent. So I reached out to my good mate Covey, and he was basically like, first thing you need to do is you need to tell me like how much you weigh, which was like, whoa, like that's a big thing for me. And I recall first stepping on the scale, seeing the big 120. I was like, Jesus, like I knew I was big, but I didn't realize like how much weight I needed to lose. I think like for like a 6 foot 18-year-old, it's like you want to weigh about, you know, like, you know, around 80 kilos. So I was like, I have to lose, you know, 40 kilos. Like, whoa, I need to lose a third of my body weight. It was like, you know, it was a big realization, like this isn't going to be an easy sort of thing.
And realizing that it's not just going to be a short-term process
it's going to be
either.
a long-term grind.
It's going to be a long-term grind.
Yeah, no shortcuts. So it was definitely, after I saw that number, I kind of wanted to, you know, throw in the towel and give up. I was like, nah, there's no way that it's going to happen. But you know, reached out to Covey and kind of, I guess that was where sort of my turning point was, when I was at my lowest point at the beginning of 2020.
So thank you first of all for being as vulnerable as you were in answering that, because that's not an easy place to kind of go to, is to kind of look at the point you were self-regarded as being at your rock bottom, saying and acknowledging I didn't have direction, you know, you were struggling, and you know that daunting goal of having to lose what you just said, a third of your body weight. So did you ever, like, for example, just going into the gym, starting a new diet? I know we just spoke about kind of what clicked the switch for you, but often that first step in creating momentum is also the most difficult one. What helped you in those cases?
I guess just the way I sort of did it was kind of breaking it up into incremental goals. Like, you know, first, you know, I weighed myself about once a week, and I had kind of like goals, and that's what kind of like kept me accountable and kept me motivated was kind of just breaking it up rather than viewing it as like, shit, I need to lose 40 kilos, just celebrating those little milestones along the way, like, you know, the first kilo, and then like, you know, getting out of the 120s and out of the 110 sort of thing. And just kind of, also I found that taking a lot of like images and just seeing the difference in my body shape was also another thing that kind of kept me accountable and gave me that motivation. And honestly, just like felt so much better having a clean diet, and exercising just made me feel better in general. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really nice thing that you mentioned there, just breaking it down into short-term goals, step by step, because it is so daunting looking at the bigger picture, zooming out and thinking, fuck, like there's such a long way to go. Yeah. And how long was it? How long was the process of losing the amount of weight?
It would have been from about January to September, so like 8-9 months.
There you go. So it's an 8-9 month commitment, and a very disciplined one as well, because I'm sure there were days you wake up and you're like, I can't be bothered, or you 100%. Reach a certain plateau, like maybe 3-4 months in, you reach a plateau, your calories are kind of like stagnant, your weight's a bit stagnant, and you think, well, is this the end for me, or can I go a little bit harder and for a little bit longer? So it's that 100%. Discipline then that you need to recruit.
No, definitely. What were the kind of the practical things you employed when it comes to, like, did you do a specific gym routine? Did you cut out or eliminate specific foods? Because, you know, they say with weight loss, you have all these gym influencers, dietitians now, and, you know, kind of social media, and they try to almost complicate the process. But in your case, did you find that you were getting sucked into that, or did you just literally just stick to a calorie deficit and just go to gym and exercise?
Yeah, pretty much that. So my mate Covey gave like a pretty strict diet plan and also gym regime, which I pretty much followed to a T. But I feel like the main thing that kind of helped me was intermittent fasting. I felt like if I kind of, you know, skipped out on breakfast, I felt like I didn't make up for the calories that I didn't eat throughout the morning at night. So that was the main one for me, making sure I got in my 10,000 steps. And it was actually COVID when I lost majority of my weight, so I set up a nice little home gym. And that kind of kept me accountable. Felt a bit lazy if I didn't make the trip downstairs to the home gym. So I guess just diet, gym.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it was during COVID, we also would have like a tradition once a day. We'd go around lunchtime to the park to have a kick with a footy.
Yes, the good old kick at Pretty Park.
And I think that would have, you know,
definitely.
At the time, as one of your good friends, I started to notice you were losing weight, but it was so incremental until, you know, as you said, it was August, September, and that weight was completely stripped.
That kind of kept me like motivated, like seeing a lot of our friends at the park, and they were always saying like, oh, how I'm looking good, and how they could notice that I was losing weight, and that definitely, you know, kept me driven, kept me motivated.
Yeah. Sure. And I think also with that, it's so nice to receive those compliments and receive really good encouragement from your friends around you, 100%. But really, really important to also to acknowledge that your weight loss journey didn't start from a place of wanting to impress others. No. You wanted to do it for yourself.
100%.
Like you said, you reached that defining moment in Bali. You went for a walk with your mum and you were like, fuck this, I need to make a change here. I'm not happy with myself. So it started from a place of wanting to improve your self-love.
Yeah, 100%.
So begs the question, up until that point of reaching that defining moment, did you feel like you didn't really love yourself as much as you would have liked to? Because you said, you know, you faced bullying in school and you faced moments where you were like stressing out and not feeling good about yourself. So were there moments throughout that process in school where you wanted to make that change for self-loving purposes, or you kind of just reached that a little bit later?
I feel like I said earlier, I kind of reached it a little bit later, but throughout school, I was definitely, you know, pretty low on confidence. Like I did have my core group of friends, but like socially, like didn't really branch out outside of that. I wouldn't say necessarily it was me being introverted. It was more so just low self-esteem, low confidence, and even just like getting outside of my comfort zone, I wasn't really comfortable with, just because of my lack of, I don't say self-love, but, you know, confidence in myself sort of thing. Yeah.
And do you feel like once you started that weight loss journey, your confidence changed?
100%. I feel like more, definitely throughout, but particularly once I had lost the weight. Even once I had lost the weight, I would say I did have a little bit of body dysmorphia, just kind of getting used to the fact like, shit, like I'm actually at an average weight now. I feel like the main thing that kind of drove my confidence was, sounds a bit harsh, but as humans, we do like tend to judge. And, you know, they say like first impressions are everything. And, you know,
we all judge, mate.
We
it's
all
natural.
judge. So
Yeah.
it's like, I was like always had in my head, like, are they judging me for being overweight? Are they, you know, I feel like we kind of view as a society, it sounds harsh, but we view fat people as kind of like different sort of thing. Like they're overweight, like they're different. I've definitely noticed that since I've lost weight, that like people are not necessarily kinder, but they're more, you know, willing to take time out of their day to socialize with me, kind of take me a bit more seriously, value my opinion a little bit more. And I think just not having that hesitation in my mind, like, oh, are they judging me for being overweight, and kind of, you know, feeling like a normal person, so to speak, like of you know, good body image, has definitely made me confident. And I feel like also just the fact that I overcame such a big task of losing all that weight has given me like confidence in other areas of my life, whether it be socially or with work or with uni. Kind of like I've overcome that task, I can kind of overcome anything sort of thing.
Really,
So I guess, exactly.
really touchy subject there. Like I
Yeah.
guess how you spoke about how like as a society we tend to stigmatize people that are overweight, but you know what? Like that is something you felt at the end of the day.
100%. Yeah. It was definitely something that I felt, and I've realized since that, you know, people do respect me a bit more. And yeah, it is a bit touchy, I understand that, but it's just definitely.
Do you think the respect also is a bit comes from the place of they see someone who and I'm not talking about the people that didn't know you a few years ago. I'm speaking about the people that know you now that 100%. Might give you a little bit more respect. Do you think a part of that also comes from an unconscious place, which is, wow, this person committed to such a disciplined journey. He went through that. Yeah. That deserves my respect. Because I think as humans, we naturally give respect to people who go through difficult times and overcome challenges rather.
100%. With close family and friends, 100% definitely felt like they appreciated what I went through and, you know, were very, you know, understanding, and definitely grew a lot of respect for me, I felt. Yes.
And that raises the question as well, how important is having a support system in place for you? Because you mentioned your mum went on a walk with you, our good mate wrote you up a training program, but, you know, a lot of people who might be struggling with, you know, a self-improvement journey, whether it be through weight loss, may not be comfortable with their support system. Yeah. And it can be quite a difficult thing because you might be out and, you know, one of your friends offer you something that you would love to eat and you have to say no. And supportive friends will keep you accountable and say, like, 100%, you know, we'll have a cheat meal one day, bro, but let's just stick to it. I want to help you achieve your goals. But unsupportive friends will, you know, they'll bag you. They'll say, you know, mate, you're always overweight. That's how you're going to say. Yeah. How did you experience any of that?
Not particularly. There was actually maybe once I don't know if you boys were there, but like all our mates, we went to Pancake Parlour once actually, and this was at the very start of my diet, everyone was digging into their pancakes and ice cream, and I was like, nah, I'll sit out of this one, I'm on a diet. They're like, oh, come on, mate, what's like, you know, a bit of pancakes going to do it? It was just like the whole thing of like, oh, if I allow myself this once off, it's like a discipline thing. It's like, what's stopping me from doing it next time? So, you know, just sticking to that sort of routine. But in general, I mean, I did have a very, very good support network. Like, I basically told my mum, clear all the junk food out of the house, I basically gave her a shopping list of what I needed. She was really, really supportive. And yeah, my mates as well, like, definitely very, very supportive. So
what did your diet comprise of, just out of curiosity?
Just very like high protein, a lot of vegetables, still had carbohydrates. People that say like carbs is essential, still had like, you know, you're right, like it's kind of steered away from like bread and pasta just because they're like very calorie dense. I still had, you know, my carbohydrates, just a very balanced diet. I still even like every now and then kind of treated myself just because it's unsustainable to fully cut out.
100%. You have to keep that moderation.
That's how I feel like you kind of bounce back and binge eat sort of thing. It's like if I had a craving, like I'd have, you know, a block or two of chocolate or, you know, a little handful of chips just to kind of negate that sort of temptation to binge eat. And you got to listen to your cravings sometimes. So
yeah, but really good as well that like your your family was able to set up the environment for you
Yeah.
where you were able to sustain what you were going through. Because if I know for myself perfectly when I know myself when there are chocolates and cakes and biscuits around, I will eat those. And
Yeah,
like,
I'm
that's
the
not a
same.
bad thing, because like, I think I have like a decent amount of control
Yeah.
and willpower. But if you know, if you need to
it's
lose
there,
a certain amount of weight and you've got those goals set in stone, having that environment around you that supports those goals is so crucial.
Yeah, 100%.
I think, and you can bust this myth as well. I feel like there's a bit of a myth that when people go on diet, the food they eat isn't necessarily, it's not tasty, it's not fun to eat. It's like your bland chicken and rice.
No,
But,
not at all.
People who really do commit to a weight loss journey and are successful with it when it comes to maintaining it, they make that diet work for themselves. They make the chicken taste as delicious as possible. They make the protein meals, all the foods that they have to eliminate and replace it with. They make it still quite satisfying and enjoyable. Tell me what you did. I want to hear the practical stuff.
Yeah, like I definitely liked to change it up and didn't have your boring like chicken and rice and stuff. I wasn't really like necessarily fussy. Like I was just basically like to my mum, just like for dinners always have like, sort of a lean protein sauce and, lots of salads and veggies and things like that. And then for breakfast I'd kind of, change it up. But it would be like protein based, whether it's like yogurt or oats or eggs, just like constantly changing it up, not just your boring chicken and rice. That's a complete myth. That's how you start wanting to binge eat and things like that. So
I love chicken and rice though.
it is
It's
but
great.
not the bland boiled chicken and a bit of rice. You've got to put
Nando's
Paprika?
Nando's peri
Nando's
peri
peri
dressing
sauce,
on top
yeah,
or something
of
like
course.
that.
got to
But
change it up.
yeah, and and you mentioned like eggs. Like I remember you were getting really creative. Like you were getting like the shakshuka involved and everything. Like
Omelets, just changing it up.
100%.
And the thing is, you were eating really good foods and tasty foods, but you were doing two things. You were portion controlling, so you were making sure that you weren't eating things in excess, and at the same time, you were making it delicious.
Exactly.
At
and
any,
satiating.
yeah. So at any point, did you calorie count?
Yeah, sort of at the start was when I particularly calorie counted, because I wasn't like necessarily, I didn't really understand the calories in each food, but naturally after about a month or so, I kind of just got the gist of, what's calorie dense, what's not, what's the calories in all different sorts of foods. And then like had my fitness pal for about the first month. And then after that, just kind of like I kind of got the gist of, the calories and everything. But yeah.
And just to clarify, you were walking 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
How often were you going to the gym?
Home gym 5 times a week. Never, it's a myth that you need to do running in order to lose weight. Everyone thinks like, oh, you need to do like the boring stuff. Never actually got into my running. Still hate it to the day. Did do cardio, did a bit of skipping, boxing, weightlifting, but running was never a thing that I kind of got into. And I think that's kind of a myth that, dieting and losing weight needs to be a boring process. You can still do things that you enjoy. Go for a kick of the footy, box.
Just move. Just move in any way you want to.
100%.
Move your body.
Move your body. Motion's lotion.
Yeah.
So, because I know for me when I first went on a diet as well, obviously not to the same excess you did, but I thought I had to run. Yeah. I had to run because that was how I was sweating.
Yeah.
And like that was the biggest myth, because I didn't really see like results were that dramatic when I was doing it. I wasn't enjoying it. I felt like I was only going on runs for the purpose of losing the weight.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I didn't like it. I got injured from it as well. It wasn't good for my body. So like you said, just find something you enjoy, whether it's skipping, boxing, kicking a footy, going for walks with mates.
100%.
Just some form of movement is key.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me, oftentimes when we start integrating more exercise in our life, we're eating cleaner, that has trickle-down effects for our mental clarity, our mental energy, and that obviously trickles down to other areas of our life. You said you were in a rut, but then you started your journey. How did your life purpose, I know it's a heavy question, but what kind of impact did that sort of thing have for your life purpose, your mental energy, all that sort of jazz?
It all definitely drastically improved. More so my diet, if anything, just eating clean, it's ridiculous the results it has on you physically, mentally, socially, and didn't really feel lethargic anymore, kind of, a bit more energetic, also like, just making you a lot more motivated. And it was like peak COVID at the time, so I had a pretty good like lifestyle. I got pretty lucky. I still had a job, so I was working practically, full time. I was, eating cleanly, going for kicks of the footy with mates, gymming every day, uni. So yeah, it definitely improved my lifestyle drastically and other aspects of my life for sure.
And stemming from that, like you obviously said, confidence was a massive thing that changed. Self-esteem was a massive thing that changed for you as well.
Yeah.
How did you actually, like, what were the first moments where you felt like, I've actually got a bit of confidence about myself now. I've got a bit of self-esteem. Like, what were those first moments for you? What did it feel like? And how, I guess, did you feel other people perceived it?
Yeah, I feel like once I kind of got into that healthy weight range was when I started slowly getting that confidence, just feeling like, I'm like at a normal weight now. People aren't going to perceive me as, being overweight and obese. Kind of gave me that confidence that, like I said earlier, that judgment wouldn't be there. Yeah, I think that was the main thing. Also just seeing myself in the mirror and noticing the change in my body kind of also gave me confidence. I try not to get too stuck up on the numbers because that's also another myth. Like, you can always better your body by not necessarily losing weight on the scales. It's how you feel, it's how you look, sort of thing. So
really important.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, I guess, it gave you more confidence with like girls and socially and just being in different like social settings that you might not have been in previously?
100%. Like post school, I definitely, like, for example, me and Ilan weren't even mates throughout school. Like, I feel like I've definitely branched out post school, and I think that's kind of come from, my weight loss journey and that confidence. So yeah, definitely found, and with girls as well, like particularly probably post COVID, once, I had that, weight loss and confidence, that definitely changed as well.
And I reckon people who hadn't seen you during that COVID period would have looked at you and said, wow, like,
Yeah.
you look great.
The amount of like compliments I got post COVID was like, where the other half of you go, sort of thing.
Wow.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Tell us, your confidence sort of skyrocketed through this journey.
Yep.
Tell us something specific that you wouldn't have done a few years ago that you had the confidence to do after your weight loss journey.
Yeah, I would say probably mostly socially. Firstly, just like even just at like parties and stuff, going up to random people and interacting with people was something that I never really did throughout school. Also with girls and stuff, like never really had the confidence to kind of approach girls or go on dates with girls, which is something that I've been able to do the last year or so. So I'd say mainly socially is where I feel like I've grown the most now that I'm confident, for sure.
And how's your self-love?
Yeah, it's probably even better than when I was at my slimmest, just because like at that time I was eating, a very low amount of food. I was at like probably 1,600 calories, and at that I wasn't like necessarily my strongest or feeling like the best within myself, sort of thing. I feel like now, particularly over the last year or so, is where like I've kind of learned to, definitely self-love myself, be happy with the weight that I'm at, and just feeling good, getting used to not feeling overweight and lethargic and carrying that excess body fat, for sure.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think self-love, you've nailed it there. You're feeling so much better about yourself now. What are some things, I guess, that you're doing or trying to implement in your life to, for one, keep that same level of self-love and remind yourself that, I'm going okay, I'm happy with myself these days. And I guess, what are you doing to also keep at a level where you're happy with your body weight too?
Yeah, I think just kind of reflecting on the journey, like every now and then I always look back at like images of myself and how far I've come is definitely something that I'm proud of. And ways I kind of keep the weight off is like going to the gym. I find that is like just great, not only for my physical health but mental clarity as well. Just like weightlifting, I find is just essential. Like the last couple months haven't been as much as I wanted to go, just because of being busy with work and stuff. And I find now that I'm going 3-4 times a week, the last couple weeks or so, just my mental clarity and just like in every aspect of my life, it just makes it much better.
So it's interesting that like a lot of people who start going to the gym do it because of an external reason. They want to look good for others, and then they end up coming full circle not full circle, but they end up coming to the conclusion that they're just doing it for the mental aspect.
Yeah, for sure.
And I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Fully resonate with that. And like you just said there, you might not have been going to the gym as much as you want to for the last 3 months or whatever, but that's okay. We all go through that. And the thing is, you're still going, you're still doing something, even if it might not be as much as what you want to do, but you're still turning up.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I think that speaks for your whole weight loss journey as well, because like you're going to go through ebbs and flows. You're going to ride 100%. Through different waves. And like, that's why you can't start a journey like this with motivation, because if you're purely just motivated, you're going to wake up and feel like you don't want to be there on certain days.
It's got to be for yourself.
Yeah, it's got to be for yourself, and you got to be disciplined about it. So I think your journey speaks more about discipline than it does motivation.
Yeah. And I got to ask you, I know you're a huge Carlton supporter. Are there any Carlton players that you look to and think, wow, they've got an excellent rig? I would love to emulate their gym routine or the way they look.
I wouldn't say I looked particularly at a Carlton player, but can't go past, your Crippers and your Kernos. They're both pretty ripped units.
Pretty ripped units.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I look at for Paddy Cripps, I mean, absolutely love the guy, but not sure if he trains calves all that much. So that gives me a bit of, motivation that, what, maybe I don't need to train calves as well, because my calves just do not grow.
You know what?
Paddy Cripps doesn't have the biggest calves in the world, and he's still the bloody specimen he is.
If we're confessing here, I do push-pull legs, but without the legs.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much say hate leg day. Can't
just pushing.
But that requires discipline. That requires a ton of discipline.
For sure.
Jordan, if you don't mind us asking though, how much weight did you lose? Because from photos that we've seen, it looks a fair amount.
Yeah, it was 43 kilos to be exactly, 121 down to 78. Which is a significant amount of weight. Definitely wasn't easy. Took me, I think, 34 weeks, which in retrospect is like, I thought it would take a lot longer than that, but that is a while, like 9 months.
Credit to yourself. It's because you were disciplined, mate.
Yeah.
Far out. That's a lot of weight. When I think about that weight, I think of like a 40 kilo dumbbell.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like next time you go to the gym,
sometimes think about that. Like even if I'm carrying something I work around about gym, I'm like shoulder pressing 220 kilo dumbbells. I'm like, geez, that's the amount of weight I've lost. Like that's crazy.
That
like,
used to be inside of you.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah. It's really
when you
insane.
Quantify it like that, it really makes a massive difference and puts into perspective how insane your journey has been. And full credit to you, mate. That's unreal. I just want to ask you, based off that, mate. There's a kid in school right now. They are in year 9, year 10, year 11. They might not feel like their body is at a level that they're happy about, and everyone's journey is different, but they might be a little bit overweight and they're not happy about it, which is the main thing. What is a little bit of advice or a tip that you would give to that person?
For sure. That it's one thing to recognize, but it's another thing to actually kind of put it into action. And I reckon that's the one thing, not that I regret, but I could have, prioritized myself a little bit earlier and kickstarted my journey a little bit earlier, particularly throughout, year 9, year 10, before year 12 kind of got intense. So I guess with anything, it's not only necessarily weight loss, but any sort of bad habit or any sort of lifestyle change. It's one thing to recognize like, shit, I need to make this change. It's another thing to actually put those thought into action, actually kickstarting it. So definitely, my advice would be to kind of put those, thoughts into action. It's got to be, for your own self-love. It's like you said, if you're trying to motivate yourself, you're going to lose motivation. It's more so to make yourself feel good, and you'll definitely thank yourself for it 100%.
That's wonderful. Jordan, both of us want to thank you for coming on to the podcast.
My pleasure.
I want to say thank you to our lovely listeners. We hope that you guys enjoyed. If this message resonates with you guys, or you feel like someone might benefit from hearing, don't hesitate. You can always send this podcast through to them. If you guys did enjoy this, don't hesitate to hit the like button, subscribe, and rate the show 5 stars. Jeremy, anything else from you?
Yeah, I guess just also want to preface that, this is a touchy subject for a lot of people. Talking about body image, weight loss, it's not for everyone. So just keeping in mind that this is just Jordan's journey, and just because his journey has been this doesn't mean like this will be the same journey for someone else. So this is just his personal experience. None of us are qualified dietitians or anything like that at the end of the day. So this is purely our experience and our journey. But because it's such an imperative topic for all of us, really, we just want to reiterate that, you know, if this speaks to you, or if you feel like this is something that you want a little bit of extra advice or perspective on, feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to Jordan.
Feel free to reach out to me, 100%.
Yeah, and we're happy to keep talking about it and helping in any way possible.
For sure. Awesome. Cheers for having me on, fellas. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been amazing. All right. Have a good week, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.